Okay, I'm going to lift the curtain a little bit. I'm going to allow you guys backstage. I get asked by countless artists to review their work, and I've been a little bit better this year of giving those a chance, because in the past, I would just kind of ignore them, and I always felt bad about that, because I get it. Being a new artist, even being an established artist, but not having a big fan base to help champion your music, it's hard to get the word out. And so I've been a little bit better of at least listening to the albums that I've been submitted to. I'm still not touching the EPs or the singles. Like, I gotta listen to the full-length albums. That's just how I digest music. And for the most part, I'd say like 99% of them, they're not great, and it's part of the reason why they are really pushing, because they don't have that immediate oomph to help them out. But you get that one that you listen to, and immediately you realize, oh, I'm dealing with something special. I'm dealing with the next big sound. And I don't know, there's something very honoring to, is that even a word? Honoring, like to be honored? To get to listen to this before anybody else and realize that you're dealing with, like, again, that next big sound. And I don't want to oversell this too much. So let's just dive in to one of the best independent works that I've heard in a very, very long time. Reconciliation by ALMO. So ALMO, spelled AMLO, is a new solo work from ALMO, Benjamin Elmo Thorsill, a Swedish artist. He actually came from the death metal band of Frozen Realm, and when they disbanded in 2019, he went out on his own and started working on this new project. And man, like, I will say this kind of off the start, he does wear his influences on his sleeve, and last year we got a lot of new acts, debut records from bands that were really leaning a lot on their influences. We had The Anchor It, we had Press to Enter, we had No Spoon. But really, this one kind of stands out from that. Like, even though I can hear a lot of the influences on this album, there's a transmogrification of it. There's a doing something new with it. It's like, yes, we use the same materials, but we did something else with it. And that is where I really gravitate towards. And that was something that I loved and hated about No Spoon. Even though it was one of my favorite records last year, you could see the cut and paste from Dream Theater and Haken on that record. This one, there's only maybe about 2 moments on this record where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's definitely a Haken track, or yes, that's definitely a Devin Townsend track. But for the most part, they're so well blended into what is Elmo that I can give it a pass. And also, the music is just that good. Overall, this is your kind of next step in the progressive metal frameworks. You do have a little bit of the gentiness of a Periphery or a Tesseract, but it's not really gent. They're taking kind of like the flavors and the styles of those bands, but removing the gent aspect of it and putting more of that flavor into it. And the same can be said about bands like Between the Buried and Me and Devin Townsend, as I already mentioned, and Haken. They're taking what works with those bands and then making them their own and then moving it forward. And I knew right off the get-go that I was dealing with something special. As I've already mentioned, Rain, the opening track, starts off very somber, very slow. We have just, the piano work and a little bit of a build-up within the vocal styles of things. And then we get into that Periphery, Tesseract style of metal where it's very brutal, very intense. We have a little bit of growling, a little bit of the harshness that then gets continued and bled through with the second track of Veslin, I think is how you pronounce that one. And that kind of Periphery, Tesseract style is continued. It's very rhythmic. It's very on the note. We don't have those gent drops, but we do have that technical prowess of things that I was just like, wow, we're dealing with some serious talent in here. And I love how they're using these like harmonies and kind of ebb and flows within the metal style of workings here. that we then have within Hope, the third track. And Hope starts off with this like Visions era of Haken, this really oomph style, again, very rhythmic, very on point in that case. But what I really appreciate is kind of the latter half where it goes into this little bit more of a somber thing. You know, this is something that Between the Buried and Me really likes to play with. And I really appreciate the blending and the mastery of both the brutality, the harshness, that very heavy metal side of things, with a little bit more of a soothing harmonization of this accessible side of things. And, you know, it really takes a special kind of artist to be able to balance both. Bliss is where it really starts to kind of open up for me. You know, this is where he's starting to inflect like Devin Townsend within the wall of sound. It's a little bit more accessible. It's a little bit more presentable. I could see this being like a forward single going forward for Elmo, in that it is shorter, punchy, immediate in that sense. It's got this heavenly feel to it. A lot of it is in the major chord, which I really appreciate. Again, a Devin Townsend and Between the Buried and Me trait. And it just has this big oomph about it that I really appreciate. That is then carried over within In Dreams, which is very similar to what it says. You know, this is like the Ghost or Snuggles of Devin Townsend. It's very atmospheric. It's very ambient sounds, and I really appreciate that this is where this track is coming into. Again, it's a little bit shorter at just over 4 minutes long, and this was when I was like, oh, we are dealing with something really interesting. Like the first half, I don't want to say it was generic, but I could see where the tracks were going. I can see what they were planning to do within the construction of the music, following the formulas that were laid out previously. But In Dreams was when I was like, oh, we're kind of breaking the mold in that sense. And that is continued within the next two tracks of Winterhound and Panic Attack. Winterhound really showcases Elmo's ability to build up a track, lay down the foundation for where the track is going to go, and then pay it off very, very well. Sure, the first half of this track is very brutal, it's very intense, it's very menacing, but when you get to that second half where everything is kind of paid off in this orchestral flavoring of things, it just elevates the music that much higher. And then we go into Panic Attack, which is, you know, very much that Panic Attack. This one is definitely that Haken homage. You know, I'm getting flavors of everything from Visions to The Mountain to Aquarius, and it is very tasty. And much like the tracks that I've mentioned before, the balancing of the heavy with the light, the brutality with the more accessible side of things, all within a relatively short amount of time, was extremely well done. You know, it doesn't feel chopped up. It doesn't feel disjointed. It all flows from one piece to another that I really enjoy, because it uses the momentum from each piece to then elevate the piece that comes next, that then elevates that piece that comes next. And that is what I love about progressive metal music. And Elmo was doing such a great job of utilizing this form to create some really great peaks and valleys. That then bleeds into the title track, the 20-minute epic. And when a new artist comes out with a 20-minute epic, I always get my cockles up a little bit. I'm like, can they pull it off? Because it's so hard to construct that big epic. And what I felt with Elmo doing here was they used all the different building blocks, all the different materials from all the past tracks, and put it onto this track here. It has flavors of everything, you know, without it being a slurry. And the thing that I love is that it's all really centered around this one sound that gets reprised time and time again, that becomes this big crescendo at the end of the track. That is what a big epic is supposed to do. This is the kind of epic that I love. It has flavors of Visions. It has flavors of Singularity from Empath, from Devin Townsend. You know, these big modern progressive metal epics, these masterpieces, this guy can stand toe-to-toe with those and compete very, very well. And that is the thing that I love. It's the buildups, it's the payoffs, it's this infectious, soothing, like triumphant cry that I absolutely love within this style of music. So yeah, what Elmo was able to do within this relatively short amount of time, like this album is about an hour long, and honestly, it's the perfect length. It doesn't need to be any longer. In fact, I might even say you could probably shave off a couple minutes here and there, but I still absolutely love this album. And this is one of those very rare records where an artist comes to me out of the blue and says, hey, I wrote this thing. I'm really proud of it. Can you give it a listen? And it not only meets, but exceeds all of the expectations that I had going into it, because I had none. And it absolutely blew me away. So yeah, I'm just going to come out with my rating and say Reconciliation by ALMO is an album I absolutely love with my whole heart. This is a run, don't walk to go and listen to it. It drops today. I'm hoping to get this album review out on Friday. So go and listen to it. You will not be disappointed. This is one of those things where if you liked No Spoon from last year, you're going to love this record. I had a blast with it. I am so glad that I didn't sleep on it. I'm going to be shouting the praise of this record throughout the year. And it is a very strong contender. Like, it has set the bar very, very high for album of the year. So this is going to be the album that I kind of compare a lot of albums moving forward within, especially within the progressive metal landscape, to be like, well, is it as good as Reconciliation? That's a very hard bar to beat. So far, none has really come close. So yeah, this gets the no seal of approval. This one you have to go and listen to. I cannot sing its praises high enough. I cannot wait to see where ALMO goes from here, because if this is their debut, I'm really excited for the sophomore and more albums from this artist. So well done. Can't wait to hear more. And that's what I've got for Reconciliation from ALMO. What did you guys think about this album? Please go and listen to it. I'm begging. You're going to enjoy this one. And that's what I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.